It's a brightness that Hyul can barely tolerate. Unable to bear it any longer, he drops the book, startled by the sudden burst of energy. The book suddenly speaks. It tells our boy that he shares the same essence as Vitanar, and that this book has been left specifically for him. Hyul stands there, completely confused by what's happening. He has no idea how to react to this shit, but this was a big day for him, a day which changed his life entirely, and he came to know about it later. You see, in the present moment, he did not really understand that being labeled a misfit was actually his fortune. Those who failed the practical exam were required to attend supplementary classes, and embarrassingly enough, Hyul was the only one who failed. Now, the boy who could do nothing but endure in his helpless state is about to experience a rebirth, a new beginning. The next day arrives, and students are scattered around the cafeteria, chatting and having lunch. Meanwhile, Hyul is sitting alone at a table, quietly eating. A guy approaches him and asks why he's eating alone again. It's clear this isn't the first time Hyul has seen this ponytailed guy who seems friendly enough not to bother with asking permission before plopping down at his table. This guy is Ji Suchun. Despite looking a bit clueless, he's actually a pretty skilled magician, ranking in the top 10 at the academy and managing to form 3 magic circles by the age of 18. Suchun even tries to steal a bite of Hyul's food, making Hyul a bit annoyed as he tells him to eat his own. Honestly, though, this little back and forth is one of the few reasons Hyul can actually call this guy his friend in an otherwise pretty miserable school life. Suchun even assures his friend that if anyone's bullying him, he just needs to let him know and he'll take care of it. That's when Hyul reveals to his friend that he found a strange book yesterday. Suchun is intrigued at the mention of the book and asks about it. Hyul explains that it's an unusual book on Rebel Vitanar, but after page 3, all the pages are blank. He thinks it might just be other kids messing with him. He goes on to describe how when he opened the book, it glowed with light and he could hear a voice. Suchun is amazed that someone might have gone as far as using magic to prank him. He asks Hyul what the book said. Hyul tells him it mentions something about passing down magic to a successor, and that he wouldn't have even been able to open it without sharing the same essence as the author. Suchun's interest is piqued, and he insists on trying out the strange book himself, but it seems like there is a crucial detail Hyul hasn't shared with his friend, and he finally admits that the last page of the book tells him he must at least die once. He goes on to explain that the book wants him to create a mana circle, not in his heart, but in his brain, which is technically a suicide. Suchun is now seriously annoyed to hear this, because telling someone to form a mana circle in the brain is basically like telling someone to die. It's absurd. Suchun is more curious than ever, and he wants to personally see this book. The night has descended, and we find ourselves at the Obelisk Academy student dormitory where Hyul finally shows Suchun the book he's been talking about. Hyul tells him to try opening it. Suchun does so. He pours everything he has got, but the book doesn't react at all, not even a hint of magic. He eventually gives up, and that only confirms what Hyul had told him before, that the book really can only be used by someone who shares the same essence as Rebel Vitanar. Suchun even wonders if there's some sort of spell at play, but after a moment of contemplation, he decides it's not worth it and drops the subject, brushing off the whole thing as nonsense. He walks out, leaving Hyul alone with the mysterious book. As Hyul opens the book, he does so effortlessly, which only deepens the mystery surrounding it. Then something strange catches his eye. A page that had been completely blank before is now filled with words. Rebel Vitanar's voice calls out to him once again through the book, reminding Hyul that trying to use magic by creating a mana circle in the heart is a natural thing to do. It's what ordinary people would do. But if our boy wants to become Vitanar disciple, he must destroy the mana circle in his heart and instead create a mana circle in his brain. Just as the words fade, golden energy begins to shimmer above his head. A yellow outline of his brain appears glowing in the light as if something ancient and powerful is awakening within him. Rebel Vitanar's voice echoes again, urging Hyul to open the book once more. By now, he's sure this is far too extreme for a prank, especially since it keeps insisting he create a mana circle in his brain. You see, even though mana is the source of magic, it's also a poison to the brain. If mana enters the brain, it can cause mental breakdowns and, in the worst-case scenario, lead to brain death. This puts Hyle in a serious dilemma, and he feels like he's being told to just throw his life away. Frustrated, he tosses the book aside, grabs his blanket and goes to sleep, hoping a new day will bring some clarity. The next morning, he decides to take the book to the teacher, hoping they might recognize it or know more about its origins. As soon as the teacher grabs the book, he can immediately notice the ancient text and feel of the book. The teacher asks if Hyo wants him to examine the book, and Hyo nods, asking if he could check whether the book might be sealed with magic. The teacher looks curious and asks why he thinks that. Hyo explains that there have been strange rumors circulating among the students lately. The teacher gives him an unsatisfied look, reminding him that focusing on rumors isn't beneficial to his studies. Still, he promises to examine the book, but advises our boy to concentrate on his academics. After carefully inspecting the book, the teacher finally tells him that there are no traces of magic on it. He hands the book back, telling him to put aside ghost stories and focus on his studies. Hyul takes the book and walks back to his dorm feeling a bit disappointed. He'd hoped to unravel some of the mystery, but it's only gotten stranger now that even the teacher couldn't open it yet. This also sparks a new thrill in him, because if even a skilled teacher couldn't unlock its secrets, maybe this book is the real deal. After all, he gets back to his room and spends a long time thinking everything through. Eventually, he picks up the medicine his father had sent him, the pills meant to end his practical training and push him to focus solely on studying magic theory. Taking them would destroy the mana circle in his heart. Though he has no intention of giving up on magic, he knows he has to do this if he's to pursue the true path laid out by the mysterious book. His hands tremble uncontrollably as he stares down at the pills lying in his palm. He reminds himself that his life is already a mess anyway, so what does it matter if this attempt kills him? With a determined sigh, he finally pops the pills into his mouth, fully prepared to risk death in his quest to awaken the mana circle in his brain. Don't forget to like and subscribe.